The human had just wanted a quiet evening, a routine salvage check, a lukewarm cup of station coffee that tasted like recycled regret, nothing more dramatic than an air filter refusing to unclog. But fate, especially the kind that stalks humans in the HFY Codex, never sends warnings. It simply drops an alien woman into your path, panting, trembling, and staring at you like you're the last life raft on a sinking star cruiser. He didn't even hear her approach. One moment, he was scanning crate manifests. The next, a shadow blocked the overhead lights, and an armored hand slammed against the wall beside his head. Not a threat, more like a desperate plea wrapped in military-grade anxiety. Human, she whispered, voice cracking through a throat meant for battlefield orders. Please, I require you to pretend to be my mate. The human blinked, slowly, carefully, as if reality were a fragile hologram that might flicker out if he moved too quickly. He said, the universal human syllable for I am not emotionally prepared for this conversation. What? Her eyes, large, luminous, and painfully earnest, darted around the docking bay. She lowered her voice further, leaning in until he felt the heat of her breath through his cheap station uniform. My captain is approaching for inspection. Unbonded soldiers are... She paused, grimacing as if explaining this physically hurt. Discouraged harshly, I claim to have a mate, a human mate, and now he demands to see you. So, please, pretend. He stared. She stared. Somewhere behind her, boots clanged, echoing like a countdown to disaster. You want me, he repeated, to pretend to be your boyfriend? She went stiff, horrified. Boyfriend? No, your species terminology is strange. I need you to be my battle consort temporarily for display. A formality. That doesn't sound better, he muttered. The alien warrior sucked in a sharp breath, the plates along her neck fluttering in distress. If the captain sees me unbonded, he will assume I have failed in discipline. He will demote me, perhaps reassign me to the nursery barracks. Humans do not understand what that means for my record. He didn't, but judging by her expression, it was terrible. And then she did something no hardened soldier should ever do, she whispered. Barely audible, please. That word always breaks humans, across galaxies, star empires, and species with claws or scales or plasma running through their veins. Please hits like gravity. The human sighed, shoulders slumping in that classic gesture of resigned, confused heroism. Fine, I'll help, but we've got, 5 seconds before your captain gets here. You should probably explain. No time. She grabbed him by the front of his shirt, pulling him forward with surprising gentleness for someone who could probably fold steel beams. Just follow my lead. Do not contradict anything I say. Smile occasionally. Humans smile. Yes, that is a thing you do. Yeah, we smile. Good, do that. Preferably at me. That feels loaded, he said. She froze, face flushing an iridescent violet. Loaded. Humans usually smile at people they like. Her throat clicked. I see. Another pause then, but smile with restraint. Boots clanged closer. The captain's presence rolled ahead of him like a wave, heavy, disciplined, and radiating the kind of stern authority that made soldiers straighten before he even came into view. The alien warrior inhaled sharply, squared her shoulders, and then, to the human's complete shock, hooked her hand through his arm. It wasn't a romantic gesture in her culture. It was worse. It was a declaration of chosen partnership, something her people took very seriously. He felt her trembling. A contradiction of armor and vulnerability pressed against him. The captain marched into sight, towering and severe. His crest ridges lifted the moment he saw them. Ah, so this is your mate. The human attempted to smile. It came out half nervous, half apologetic. The captain misinterpreted instantly. He looks at you with affection. Good humans bond intensely, do they not? The warrior made a choking sound. Captain, with respect, no. It is commendable. The captain clasped his hands behind his back, circling them like a scientist studying a live specimen. A bold choice, soldier. Humans are temperamental creatures, emotional, unpredictable, but fiercely loyal to those they bond with. The human opened his mouth. She crushed his hand in a silent warning. Yes, she blurted. Very loyal, intensely loyal, almost too loyal. I can barely restrain him sometimes, the human sputtered. Excuse me, the captain nodded sagely. Humans are known for their excessiveness, the human said. Emotionally, the captain clarified. A single compliment can send them into days of euphoric devotion. That's not okay, maybe sometimes, but, and touch. The captain added with a grim, approving nod. A human's affinity for physical closeness is legendary. I trust you have prepared yourself for the demands of such a mate. The alien warrior nearly combusted. Captain, please, he is standing right here. No need for modesty, the captain said. Humans do not hide their affection. It is their strength, their charm. The human had never felt so deeply, spectacularly misunderstood. He also had never seen an alien soldier look so ready to melt into a puddle of mortified stress. Very well, the captain concluded. Inspection complete. Bond acknowledged. You are excused. They stood frozen until he disappeared around a corner. Then the alien warrior exhaled all at once, collapsing against the wall. Stars, I cannot believe that worked. The human rubbed his face. What have I gotten myself into? She looked up at him, cheeks still flushed violet. Temporary inconvenience, she said softly. I promise. Just until inspection rotation ends in 3 cycles. 3 cycles. How long is that? 72 hours, he stared. I'm your fake boyfriend for 3 days. Her crest drooped. Battle. And yes. Silence settled, awkward, tense, charged with the kind of energy that happens when 2 people accidentally stumble into intimacy. Then she whispered again, voice small despite her armor. Thank you. Human. He didn't say anything, but he smiled at her, and this time she didn't tell him to restrain it. The next morning began with a realization the human should have anticipated but absolutely did not. Pretending to be the mate of a high-ranking alien soldier came with duty ceremony, emotional, and, apparently, culinary. He woke to a banging at his door. Not a polite knock, not a nervous tap. A boom, like someone kicking a starship hull to check if it's hollow. He opened the door half awake. Hair a mess, shirt wrinkled. There she was. His mate, armor polished, posture perfect, anxiety leaking from every movement like steam from an overworked engine. Human, she said. I have a problem. He rubbed his eyes. I'm not awake enough for a problem. It is urgent, not helping. She hesitated, then held up a sealed metal container the size of a helmet. I require your help. My squad insisted that I bring you breakfast. They say bonded partners must show mutual care at dawn. She swallowed. I do not know how to cook human food. He blinked. That's alien food. It is nutrient-paced, highly efficient, very flavorful. For my species. He stared at the container as if it were a live explosive. And you want me to eat it? It is symbolic, she admitted. But yes, if you do not consume at least 1 spoonful, they will assume our bond is weak. He inhaled slowly. What happens if the bond is weak? They will report me for deception. Then I will be disciplined severely, possibly reassigned to the hatchling academy to supervise larvae. He shuddered. Okay. For your dignity I'll take 1 for the team. She brightened just a fraction. Thank you, truly. He opened the container. The smell slapped him. Instantly. Whoa, okay, that's aggressive. It is aromatic, she said. Proudly, it's hostile. It is traditional. It smells like a war crime. But she was watching him with those big, earnest eyes, and the universe had a cruel sense of humor that always nudged humans to do the emotionally ridiculous thing, so he took a spoonful. Bravery came in many forms. Today's version involved consuming something with the texture of steaming clay and the aftertaste of regret. He swallowed, barely, her crest lifted in amazement. You did it. You survived. That's a choice of words I hope doesn't become literal. She stood taller, visibly relieved. Thank you, human, truly. It means more than you know. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and touched his arm, lightly, carefully, almost reverently. It was supposed to be a gesture of gratitude among her species. But on humans it had a very different effect. His pulse quickened. Her cheeks darkened to a shy violet. Both pretended not to notice. Their first official day as a bonded pair unfolded like a comedy written by a bureaucrat, with a twisted sense of romance. First came the evaluations. Alien soldiers lined up in a semicircle, observing him as if he were a rare animal brought in for study. One soldier whispered, he is smaller than expected. Another murmured, humans come in many sizes. It is part of their allure. A third added, look at his hair. It is so chaotic. He considered running, but his mate stepped beside him, chin lifted, eyes sharp. Do not stare at him like that, she commanded. He is not a specimen. The soldiers froze. He felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. Being defended was nice. Being defended by someone terrifying was strangely nicer. Then came the bonding test. This involved standing close. Very close, so close he felt the heat of her armor through his shirt and counted her breath short, controlled, almost trembling. This is absurd, he whispered. It is tradition, she whispered back. Why do we have to stand chest to demonstrate mutual trust? Why is your captain taking notes? It is protocol. What protocol requires measuring the distance between our faces? The romantic one. He almost tripped backwards. Romantic, she coughed sharply, as if swallowing her pride. To them, perhaps. Not to me, obviously. I mean, not that you're unappealing. You are just... He stared at her. She gave up and shut her mouth. The captain finally stepped forward, nodding in satisfaction. Your bond appears authentic. The human looks at you with a mixture of awe and exasperation. Classic mating indicators. The human muttered, it's not awe. The captain ignored that. Continue your bonding rituals. You are dismissed. They walked away in silence until they reached an empty corridor. Only then did she sag against a wall, exhaling her entire soul. I want to die, she groaned. You handled that well. No, she said, covering her face. I did not. My captain thinks you are enamored with me. He thinks I'm what? He said. You look at me with intensity. I was looking because your people were measuring my cheeks with a scanner. She froze, then laughed a short, awkward burst, like she was afraid someone might hear her enjoying something. Human, she said softly. I am grateful, even if today has been humiliating. Hey, he said, at least your career is safe. For now, she murmured. Then she looked up at him with a hesitant vulnerability that threw him off balance. as if she wasn't just scared of her captain but scared of how real this fake bond was beginning to feel. "Tomorrow," she said, "we must perform the gesture of mutual regard." He frowned. "What gesture?" She hesitated. "You would call it holding hands." He stared. "Your species considers holding hands intimate." "Painfully," she whispered. "Do not expect me to speak coherently while doing it." He couldn't help it. He smiled. Her crest flushed violet again, and as she walked him back to his quarters, keeping a careful distance yet glancing back every few steps, he felt the unmistakable shift. Pretending was getting dangerous because neither of them was pretending quite as well as they hoped.
On the second morning of their very temporary romance, the human found himself rehearsing how to hold hands. Not because he didn't know how, humans invented the art form, but because she had warned him that for her species, hand-holding was equivalent to whispering sweet nothings directly into someone's soul. Her people didn't even touch shoulders unless someone was dying or confessing dramatic affection. So when she arrived at his door, armor off, casual uniform on, and already blushing a shade of violet that indicated catastrophic embarrassment, the human understood immediately. "It is time," she said. He inhaled. "For the gesture." "Yes." She swallowed audibly. "For the mutual regard." They stood in the corridor like two teenagers attempting to reenact a romance scene neither wanted to admit they'd imagined. He lifted his hand slightly. She flinched. "Sorry," he said quickly. "Too fast?" "No. I just..." She paused, scanning the hallway as if checking for hidden witnesses. "I am prepared. Mostly. Do you want to practice?" he asked. She froze. "Practice? Yeah, like a rehearsal. So you don't faint in front of your whole squad." Her crest twitched violently. "Humans rehearse affection? Not usually. But this whole situation is weird, so I'm adapting." She looked at his hand, then at her own. "Very well," she said in a strangled whisper. "We will practice." He reached out again, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she extended her hand like a soldier offering a ceremonial blade, tense, sweating, expecting an emotional explosion. When their palms finally touched, she jerked like she'd been hit with a static shock. Her fingers twitched, stiff at first, then trembling with a softness he hadn't expected. "Oh stars!" she whispered. "It is warm." "It's a hand," he murmured. "Your species are so temperature variable. And soft." "Why are you so soft?" "I moisturize," he said. She blinked in confusion. "Moist, what?" "Never mind." They stood there for a long moment, hands clasped, breathing unevenly, both too aware of every point of contact. The human felt something stir, not romantic commitment, not sudden infatuation, but the dangerous spark of genuine fondness. He squeezed gently, comforting. Her breath hitched. And then the corridor alarm blared. She yanked her hand away so fast he thought she might have dislocated a wrist. Her face flushed deep violet. "Inspection! We must perform the gesture publicly." They hurried into the main atrium, where dozens of her squad mates were already assembled. The captain stood at the front, arms crossed, waiting to judge their every micro-expression. The human whispered, "Ready?" "No," she whispered back. "But you are my mate. We will endure humiliation together." He squeezed her hand again, and this time she didn't flinch. Gasps rippled through the room. The captain nodded approvingly. "Excellent. The human displays confidence. And you, soldier, you look appropriately overwhelmed. A sign of deep connection." She made a tiny strangled noise. They stood there, hands clasped, while the captain walked slow circles around them with the solemnity of a wedding officiant and the intensity of a military drill instructor. "Interlock fingers," the captain ordered. She nearly died. The human obeyed gently, sliding their fingers together. She stiffened but didn't pull away. The captain tapped on his datapad. "Good. Good. Humans use this gesture to anchor themselves emotionally. It signifies trust, affection, and a willingness to commit." She blinked rapidly, pupils dilating. "Commit?" the human whispered. "Not like that. Humans, your species, why?" The captain raised a brow. Is there a problem? She snapped to attention. No, sir. Very well. Proceed to the next ritual. The human mouthed silently, next ritual? But he should have known. There was always another ritual. Bureaucracy, especially alien military bureaucracy, never settled for one. The human whispered. We're declaring what? She whispered back. Affirmation of mutual support and preference. He blinked. Preference? Yes. You must state why you chose me. Oh no. The captain nodded at the human. You may begin. There were 20 alien soldiers watching. The woman beside him was sweating bullets. And every logical part of his brain screamed to keep it simple, keep it fake, keep it safe. But humans have never been simple. He cleared his throat. I chose her because... He paused, looking at her. Really looking. Because she's brave. And loyal. And the kind of person who would run through a war zone to protect the people she cares about. Her breath caught. The violet along her neck brightened. And because, he added quietly, she deserves someone who sees her for who she is, not just for her duty or her rank. The room fell silent. The alien warrior looked at him like he'd just rewritten the gravitational constant. Her voice cracked when she spoke. I chose him because humans are unpredictable. And compassionate. And they feel deeply, even when logic says they should not. The captain made a satisfied hum. The bond is convincing. Convincing. The word stung both of them. Because convincing wasn't the right word anymore. Not when her fingers tightened around his as if she wasn't faking anything. Not when he felt his chest tighten in a way no performance could explain. Not when their eyes met and both of them immediately looked away. The captain finally dismissed them, satisfied that protocols were met and hearts irreversibly traumatized. They walked back to the corridor in silence. Then she exhaled. Human. He turned. Yeah? That was not part of the script. I know. You said those things anyway. I meant them. She stared at him, stunned and unarmored in a way that had nothing to do with her uniform. Why? She whispered. He hesitated. Because the truth was beginning to surface, the kind of truth that only human. The ship felt different after that night, quieter in some places, louder in others, vibrating with a tension that was no longer fearful but startlingly alive. Even the hum of the reactor seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, as if the vessel itself had decided it now believed in whatever reckless human magic had taken root in its steel corridors. Word spread, of course. Not officially. No memo declared that Captain Vorkana's most promising soldier had survived a political execution because a single human refused to step aside, but in whispers and sideways glances, in the flick of antennae and the curl of luminescent tails. It was the kind of story the galaxy pretended to dismiss yet secretly hoarded, because it felt too absurd to be anything but deeply true. Lyrics walked 3 steps to my left, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She tried to hide it, naturally. Zelanti warriors weren't known for publicly orbiting the people they cared about like clingy moons. But every now and then her wing brushed my shoulder, or her voice dipped warmer than professional necessity allowed, and the pretense collapsed like wet paper. And every time she did it, her frill flushed faintly silver, something she insisted did not indicate attraction in her species. That was, she claimed, a baseless human assumption. And yet, suspiciously, the frill only glittered around me. The captain summoned us to her private deck, which was concerning, because Captain Vorkana only summoned people there for 2 reasons: promotions, or strategic eviscerations. Lyrics tried to play the fearless soldier but spent the entire lift ride tapping her talons against the floor in a frantic rhythmic pattern. I didn't know the Zelanti language well, but I was almost certain she was drumming out her will and testament. When the doors parted, we found the captain waiting by an observation window, staring out at a bloom of starlight. You've caused a problem, she said without turning. Her voice was calm, but the kind of calm that carried artillery under each syllable. Both of you. Lyrics bowed so sharply her crest nearly stabbed the floor. I bowed less sharply, mostly because humans bend differently, and I didn't want to look like I was rehearsing amateur yoga in front of a war hero. The captain finally faced us. Soldier Lyrics, your survival, while fortunate, has created diplomatic questions I cannot ignore. Humans are not under our protection. They are not bound to us by oath or treaty. Yet one single human, her gaze shifted to me, interfered with noble protocol and saved your life. I opened my mouth to say something reassuring, maybe even witty, but her expression suggested it would be a tactical error. She stepped closer, her armored boots whispering against the polished floor. What is your explanation? She demanded. Lyrics's throat constricted. Captain, I wasn't going to let her die, I interrupted. Lyrics's head snapped toward me in horror. Interjecting a superior officer was apparently only slightly less offensive than chewing ceramic armor plating. The captain blinked once, slowly, as if recalibrating her expectations of human stupidity. You were not asked for permission to speak. I know, I replied. But you did ask for an explanation, and that explanation starts with me. Her mandibles flexed in quiet disbelief. Human, do you understand that your actions endanger not only her life but your own diplomatic status? I don't have diplomatic status. Exactly. I shrugged. Well, I didn't need status to care. Silence flooded the room, thick enough to soften the ship's usual hum. Lyrics stared at me with an expression halfway between terror and something far more fragile. The captain's gaze hardened, not with anger but with an unnerving, assessing curiosity. It felt like she was seeing a shape she'd never encountered before and wasn't entirely convinced was real. Humans, she said at last, are catastrophically inconvenient. Humans, she said at last, are catastrophically inconvenient. I get that a lot, I answered. A sound escaped her, something too sharp to be amusement, and too amused to be disapproval. You have altered protocol. You have disrupted noble tradition. And worst of all, she exhaled, almost grudgingly, you have given half my crew hope. Lyrics's frills shimmered faintly. Hope is not a tactical disadvantage. In excess it is, Vorkana countered. Especially when romantic entanglement is involved. Lyrics choked. I nearly choked. The captain simply folded her arms as if enjoying our synchronized implosion. I have eyes, she continued. Unlike the rest of the officers, mine are not decorative. Lyrics sputtered. Captain, with respect, we. Finish that sentence carefully. The captain warned. Lyrics's jaw clicked shut with a sound that suggested her entire soul had curled into the fetal position. Vorkana sighed, turning toward the window again. Your partnership will complicate future missions. However, she paused, as though choosing her words with surgical precision. I will not penalize you for forming a bond rooted in loyalty and empathy. Even if it is absurd. Even if it is disconcertingly effective. A slow warmth unfurled in my chest, not victory, not relief, but something quieter and far more intense. Lyrics watched me with an expression that no translation device could ever define. A blend of gratitude and affection filtered through the fierce restraint of a warrior terrified of wanting anything too much. You will both remain under my command, the captain declared. But let this be understood, if your relationship, she almost spat the word, interferes with combat efficiency, I will separate you personally, physically, and unpleasantly. Lyrics bowed again. Understood, Captain? I nodded. Crystal clear. Vorkana dismissed us with a flick of her hand. And for the love of the stars, she muttered as we exited, stop pretending to be mate.